In the last class, what we had discussion, so we just created a few fields and the sections, how we can create the section and how we can create a section fields from the form layout on the table, and the third one form layout tables and the form design, how we can see it. So that's a basic thing. I hope you guys are clear. And today we will go to the basics. So generally, if you are writing any script or writing anything, it will be executed in two levels. The first one, the first one is client level. The first one is client level. The second one is server level. So client level is nothing but which will be executed in the browser. That we will client level. So here, if you come to check for the client level, whatever executed here, it will be executed in the browser level, which are executed in the client level. That is the browser level. So what are the scripts which are executed in the browser level? That is a called client level. So if you come to the service now, the client level is the first one is the UI policies. Second one is the client scripts. So we will discuss about later. Then well, the next one is the server level, which are executed in the database level, which is in the server level, table level, which are in the server level, that is in the, that is in table or database. So if you perform this one, that it will be executed in the database. And now the next one is so what are this one for this one? I'm sorry, can I go for a mute, please? The first one is the business rules, and second one is the data policies. Third one is business rules, data policy. Third one is a script includes. So script includes is nothing but this is the data policies. Data policies, business rules, and the script includes. Now what we have to write it here, the UI policy, data policy, script includes. So here why we need to use this client level and server level architecture. So everything if you execute it in the client level, what it will happen is if you not executed in the server level, so what it will execute here, which means Jyoti, can you go for a mute please, which means see here. So if I open this one, MS Paint, So I'm just opening. So for example, this is our user is entering the data here, and this is the table here. So if you enter a data in this one, if you go here, and if you not written any client level, so the data will go there. So what it will happen is it will be go for the data will go for the this level, and whatever it will be the next thing. So the data will go here, and next step what we will do is the data in the invalid format again. This is come back from the here, which is a unwanted thing. So that means if you're not read any client's level, it will execute. So if you stop it here in this one here only, the same thing. So what we will do is we can control, we can stop the unwanted networking traffic, and which will be increase the performance of the application. That is the main thing, a simple thing. If you are going on a if you're going on a route, so they are saying that there is a y junction. For example, if you are going from here to here on a route, it was showing you the different three routes. Sorry, from that we have to travel here, but after going here you find that it has a three routes. So one will be go here, one will be go to the different place, one will be go to the different place. So for example here, if you know have some clear idea about what is the place you need to code from the dictionary. If you don't know it, it will be the problem for it. Similarly, in the server level, what happened? That means if you restrict the data in correct format, if you restrict it in the client level, so that we can easily understand the one. This is the basic for the client level. Now we will discuss about what is UI policy. UI policy is nothing but, as the name implies, it's a UI policy. So as the name implies, UI policy is a policy. So, what will be executed in the client level? Policy is nothing but a set of rules and regulations. If you see something, whatever we are doing, it's a rules and regulations. Now, what I am going to do is, yeah, this is the state is one. If the state is moving to development, okay, so I we have to write this development leave should be mandatory, and this client instance is verified, it should be mandatory. So like these two fields, I just want to become the mandatory for this one, and if this is a happened for the same thing. Now what I did is I'm just going to write the UI policy. So I'm just going to right click configure UI policy. Dear Jyoti, can you go for a mute? Yeah, this is the one where we can write it. Now what I am going to do is here, I'm just going to click on new UA policy. So what I'm making this one, this development lead is development lead, that means development details mandatory. Mandatory. And here when to apply, when to apply is nothing but when we need to execute this one, which means whenever we are going to execute this one. So what I'm making this one, when the state is our goal is when the state is development, I'm just saving this one. That means whenever the state is changing to development or state is development, we can execute the same thing for it. Now what we have to do is, if the state is, well, now what we have written a state is development. So if the state is development, then what we did is, we did a whatever the thing here we have done it. Now what we need to uh, go for it. Let's see how it will work. Now here, now what happened? We have defined a condition here. So the condition only we have defined, but we have not defined the what is the action we have to define. So only the rule is defined. So here, if you want to go on, so you just go to the UI policy action. I'm just going to the UI policy action. So for the UI policy action, what I am going to do is, so development lead. Development lead is mandatory. So for this one, we can make a field is a mandatory, visible and read only, and never make a field is mandatory as well as the read only as a it's a very very worst scenario. We cannot do it one. Why? Because whenever, that means whenever the mandatory is nothing but we have to must fill. But if you not given mandatory, what it will do, if you give read only, we cannot enter the data. So that is a problem for it. So always we should check the field is mandatory, and we cannot give it a field as a read only for the same thing here. And that is a basic thing how when you want to execute the same thing. Now I'm just making this one a read only, and visible is also I'm just making as a true. And so I'm sorry, I'm just making a mandatory as a true and visible as a true and submitting this one. Mandatory true. And also I'm just making this one as a some client instance verified. The details also I'm just making mandatory. So client instance verified is mandatory and visible is true. Now I'm just going to submit this one. Now right now, what it was, I'm just going to reload this one. If you want to return any client level, a client script or A1, so we should always, it should be the execute in the different thing. Different thing is nothing but, so always we need to reload. See, right now it was not showing. If the state is changed to development, it will be the development lead who is a development, and we have not even, sorry, we have not saved this one. Just going to save. Now, see, we have written. Now, if I open, I'm just going to reload this one. See, the client instance is written. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to making this one as a development is change it to one. This client instance is verified, and this has become a mandatory. So, if you want to, we can save this one. If I am trying to save this one, see the following field is not mandatory. See, this is already false, so we have mandatory. So, and also here, whatever we are doing here, so that so it will not allow the one. So we can add the who is going to the development, and if I give for example Abel tutor, and I am saying this one, that means Abel tutor is working on the same thing here. So like this we can create a one. Now here if you go to the your data your policy, configure UI policy. So like that, what are the fields we want to mandatory? What are the fields visibility? We can do the same thing here. This is the fundamental of this one. So now the next step here, here we have seen it here is a global. See, global is true. What is global is true if the selected UI policy applies to all form use, otherwise UI policy is specific. That means, for example, we have created different views. If you go to the developer view, in the developer view also, this is the mandatory. The developer client instance verified and this able tutor. So that means if you write an a policy, it will be executed in the all the views. Or else if you want to execute it in the any specific view, you just mark as a global and I'm just if you want to go here, I'm just going to the developer view and I'm just going to submit this one. Now what I'm going to do is so if I reload, the field should not be visible. So here, see, as per our scenario, if the state is changing to the development, this should be mandatory for the same here. That means, so we have to do further work. Now here, here. Now the thing was, what should we can you do for the same here? So now that means here, if you give as a specific it will. So now if we will just move to the developer view and let's see how to see in the developer view it was a mandatory, so it was throwing an error. The following fields are not mandatory, fields are not filled in, which is a development lead, so that if you fill it we can do it. And also if you update any value, it will automatically show it in the default, but in the default it was not mandatory. Why? Because in the UI policy definition we have informed the system stating that this is the mandatory for the same thing here. So this is the basic thing. And next one, I'm just going to remove this one. So always the best practice, very rare occasions we will do a specific view. Most of the things, the UI policies, we will be executed in the what we called all the views. That is a very rare occasions we can do the in the different things. Now what we have to do is the next step here. So here we have an option called here onload. What is onload? Whenever if the form is loaded, you want to execute this one, that we will call it as a onload for it. That means whenever if you open a form, then the form is loaded. So if you want to execute this UI policy or not, so the best practice for this one, always use a UI policy for the same thing. Better you can avoid any other things or any other issues or for the same thing here. So here what we can do it here is, so if I mark as unload and tray, so here this is the thing we can do it. If I make a unload as a false, so I'm just going to reload this one, this will not be executed. If I, for example, if I want invert, see, this development lead and client instance verified should be visible when the state is development as per our UI policy. But we have informed the system, we made a checkbox, it will not execute it in the here. Only if you go to the development, only the form changes, it will execute it. So if you want to, that is the use of onward. So always the best practice, always try to use the same scenario, which is a reverse if false. Reverse if false is nothing but whenever the form is loaded, we need to execute the this data policy. This is a very best practice. So always try to what I can say, always try to execute it in the best practices so that we will get a we will not get any issues and the same thing for it. So that is the fundamental about how we can execute the. Now the next step here, what we will do is now here reverse if false. What is reverse if false? Reverse the effect of the EA policy actions with the country. For example, see if I make a reverse if false and I'm just going to save this one. So then what it will happen is reverse if false is nothing but, so here reverse if false and try to save this one. See, so what I'm going to do, if development is true, for example, so which means by mistake we have changed the development. If I want to go to the in progress, in the in progress, this development lead should not be mandatory. Only when the state is moving to the development and the state is development, then only this development lead or developer should be mandatory. That is the fundamental where we need to do it for the same. Which means if the development state is in progress, so the development lead should not be visible to the one. That means that by mistake we have done it. But we have defined in the EU policy reverse if false. Reverse if false is nothing but if the action is undo. So that simply it will make us undo what we have done. Now reverse if false, what we have to do is save. So I'm just going to here, just reload. See, if the state is in here, it will not go here. I'm just going to the development, then it was visible and mandatory. So, or else if I'm going to the state is go to the back, it will go for the back. So, this is the basic scenario for the UI policy. And next one here, we have an option called inherit. What is inherit? Inherit is nothing but which is a what we can say, so which is a inherit is nothing but if you return any AI policy, if you want to apply it to the child table, then we can execute the same thing here. Right now we don't have any childhood. Always the best practice inherit is always marked as a false. This is the UI policy. UI policy. This is the one. Anyone has any questions till now? What we had a discussion? Guys, say yes or no, guys. Okay, I'm treating as you guys are understood. Now what I am saying is the UI policy is fine. Now the next step here, what we have to do is kindly note down the task. So here like this, if the state is changing to the ready for testing, this UAT tester, sorry, if your state is changing to ready for UAT, this UAT tester and UAT start date should becomes a mandatory, and that is a one. And when changing for the production, waiting for production move, then this command should be mandatory. This is the task, you have to finish it and check this all the views how it will be executed. So this is the UI policy concept. I hope you guys clear the task and what is the concept for this. Are any questions? Before we starting to the next topic on this one, okay, that's fine. I'm treating as you guys understood.